As I said in the intro to Star Trader, I'm doing a little kind of funky thing with the corporations, where I'm using mostly pre-programmed, but one of the guys ended up with a base level corporation. And I don't think it makes much difference, because I really don't think the corporations are balanced. Obviously, if everybody starts with the same money and same ship, it's going to be pretty balanced, but I don't feel like the corporations are terribly balanced, and I feel like there's some balancing taken into effect between a corporation and the baseline starting position, which is that they have different victory conditions, Okay. But speaking of which, I haven't chosen my victory conditions yet, and I should do that. So I'm going to work backwards here, because that's the order in which my things are stacked. The first corporation, or last corporation I have, is Eon Flash Corp. Now, this is a shadier member of the business community, frequently indicted for smuggling and illicit activities. So they have a fairly high criminal, some political, very little business. They have really not a lot of anything. You see, there's very little red on the board. They have a couple of ships, the 11 and the 3. The 11's over here on Mu Hercules, and I don't know where the 3 is. The 3's on planet here now. This is the guy with the Tempest. He's got the 5 Tempest. And he's got to bring that somewhere. So this is opportunity 12. It'll tell him where he has to bring it. He has to bring it to Gamma-Leporis. And he has to slip in on planet. Now, he's got a dagger, which is actually a military ship. He can't even bring that into a starport, except for, I think there's one with a 0 law level that maybe he's allowed to. Maybe it's the law level 1 ones that he's allowed to actually get into the starport. Military ships are, that would be a big problem, because you could never repair it, right? You can sell it on planet. Okay. Alright, I'll look that up later, right? Cannot enter a spaceport with law level of 3 or 4, and it can be repaired only at Taw Ceti. Okay, so 2 law levels, okay too. Which means half the board is kind of denied to me. And that means I can't, participate in any of those markets. That's okay, because this dagger has no cargo. It's really designed only for slipping stuff in. We'll see there's some others, though. Overhusen Orbital, this is my made-up corporation. They're over here. They start off with really just a ship. And I started that over at Sigma Drac, because nobody had anything there. And there are resources available. There are certain markets where there's nothing available really to buy. That's a good deal. But over here, spice and tampons, isotopes, are both cheap. Isotopes are actually pretty damn cheap there. This is a very weird market. Isotopes start off cheap. They're abundant. But they have this really weird -9 modifier, which means the price is just going to keep boosting there. This is the place where you want to build an isotope factory early in the game, and warehouses and such not, because you can just crank them out and sell them there. I don't know if that's a mistake. I suspect it is. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to violate the game here. And I am going to swap this isotope with this one, because it's not an abundant good here, and the price would just collapse through the roof, or through the floor. So I think there's a mistake there. Now the mistake may be, I doubt this. I was going to say the mistake may be the printing of what's abundant, but I don't think it's that, because that also matches the price. Maybe they tweaked things, but it just doesn't make sense to me to have it the way it is. So I think that's actually an error, and if there was any errata, I wouldn't be surprised to see it. I may go check. Anyway, that guy's got very little going for him. Quasar Enterprises. So this is kind of a weird one. The most likely corporation to show up if you're playing with the corporations, it is newly formed subsidiary of the Federation's largest trading corporation. Now, it has a lot of business connection because of that. It has a bunch of, or a couple of ships. The Tsar and the Needle, which, this is D, that's going to be yellow. So I'll have him probably here. Here they are, both at Beta Hydri. Now, their special rule is that they can borrow up to 1,000 hectatrans, no matter what their status is. But they can never borrow more than 1,000. And if their reputation ever falls below 20, they have to pay an extra. They have to reach a more difficult victory condition by like 200 hectatrans, just because they're not supposed to get involved in anything dirty or whatever. There's nothing specific about them, so like if you look at this guy, he's got 8 cargo, an augmented jump, a bunch of light weapons. That's going to be helpful. We'll see why very shortly. But basically just a normal hauler. What's kind of hard to judge is the Piccolo here. What's that good for? It looks like a smuggling ship to me. Streamlined, no cargo. It may just be something I want to sell. It does have some value. I can haul spice and monopoles in it. But man, I like to have some cargo capacity to haul some of the heavier goods. I don't think that there's any case where, you know, so if I pick up my monopoles here, I can haul them here. Spice is cheap here. Then I can pick that up and what do I do with it? You know, I can bring it here. I could have brought my monopoles there. At least I'm making some money. But now on my way back, what am I going to bring? Well, this is not a terribly good... Beta Hydri doesn't really produce anything. And that's kind of one of the things that you start to look at when you start to work these trade triangles or whatever, is you might be in a leg where you're not hauling anything or not making much off what you haul. Player C is McRady's crew. Okay, this one's weird. This is our mutineers. So they have no reputation. Connections, a little business and criminal there, or a decent amount. They only have 900 hectatrans to begin with, which isn't terrible. I think some of these others are below. This is obviously lower at 300. This guy is only at 200. That was the Eon Flash Core. But they're sitting on a pile of money here if they can slip it through legally. This guy's got very little money. Let me get to him, Gamma-Leporus, but he's got a lot of resources. He's got this huge factory and the warehouses there. Okay, so McRady's crew has a bunch of special rules, though. He can never undergoes an inquiry, so his reputation doesn't matter, except for victory conditions if he needs them for that. Can never purchase warehouses, factories, or legal spaceships, except from other players, and he can never take out loans. Which means he can actually own stuff, but he has to get somebody else to, you know, make him legit, essentially. And he's still not fully. Okay. Houston Fearless. Earth-based Trade Corporation. This is the one with some old ships. So he's got a pile of money, but his ships, he's got 3 of these Corco Zetas. And they're not that bad. Moderate pod capacity, no real additional cargo. You know, they're like a big heavy freighter without being all that big and heavy. And that's actually kind of cool because they're very cheap. It's not cool to start with them, but there's something that I can see people buying because they're very cheap and they can haul a reasonable amount of materials. The danger here is, for anyone with lighter ships, well, for anyone with any ships, is McRady's crew. He's flying around in a Spear, which is a military vessel. It's got an arsenal pod, a heavy weapons pod, a battle communications, 2 cargo, and it takes 6 crew, though, which is going to... he's at B ranking money, so that's going to cost 12 a turn to maintain. Now, each of these have different victory conditions. So like McRady's could choose just to have 1,800 in assets, which is kind of a, geez. I mean, a Spear is worth 600 right off the bat, right? So I have a pretty good chance. I got to make sure I succeed, though, because remember, I rolled 2 dice and subtract the port class. So, or is it 3 dice? I think it's 3 dice. And subtract the port class. Maybe it's only 2 dice. I don't remember. But anyway, you know, whatever money I get back from that, I got to be sure that I'm going to win the game off of it, or else I'm stuck. Hey, I don't have a ship and I don't have, you know, any resources left. I cashed everything in and I didn't quite make it. I got a terrible roll, you know. Option B is 1,200 in assets, political connection 10, and reputation 35. Well, come on, you're not going to be able to make a good reputation while you're shooting people off. And here's the problem. So, I'm not allowed all the stuff that helps me with that. I mean, that's just a stupid option for them. But I'm not allowed all the stuff that helps me for that. And in the event that I'm heading in that direction, where I'd say, yeah, you know, I want to make it legit, right? Okay, great. But why do I have to choose at the beginning of the game in that case? That really hurts me. And I kind of consider, because you do have to choose these at the beginning, hey, just leave them all open as options for these bigger corporations. I don't know. And they have no victory option C. So basically they have one option that's reasonable. Because honestly, political connection 10, yeah, we could buy that. Political connections cost us, I believe it's 10 times the level of the connection that you're going to. Pain in the ass to find this stuff, but yeah. So my political connection is 0 right now. So we're talking 100, 190, 270, 340, 400. I don't remember my multiplier there, but we're getting out to right around 500 credits right there. So how big a difference is this? Well, it's 1,800 and 1,200, which is about a 600 credit difference. So just buying the political connections that I want is going to be as much cash. Screw that, man. Right? I mean, seriously. And that's one of the problems. Obviously, not a whole hell of a lot of thought was put into coming up with these victory conditions to get them right, which means, gosh, I have no real, if they're not right within their own corporation, which is very easy to show, if they're not balanced within their own corporation to any extent, then it's ridiculous to assume that they're balanced across corporations, which is why I have absolutely no concern with putting in, a base level A corporation. And then the final corporation is Gamma Leporis, which has a couple of ships, and the biggest thing, though, is they really dominate the Gamma Leporis market. They have the factories and the warehouses there. We have some warehouses. Houston Fearless also has warehouses. So the first couple of corporations I had, I'm like, it's not bad, but they're pretty standard corporations, which is weird because, okay, Gamma Leporis is pretty likely, but Houston Fearless is down in kind of the weird numbered stuff. But we got a decent amount of kind of scarier. These two are scarier, weirder corporations. Archangel Lines is the guy who can only haul passengers. Totally weird there. All right, let me pick the victory conditions then. When I choose to work with, Gamma Leporis has one of the most interesting sets of victory conditions available. The A is 2,000 in assets. Yeah, that's pretty good, I'm probably pretty far away from that. Okay. B is 1,500 in assets, market manager in alloys in at least 3 systems, and contractor in the other 3. All right, look, I have such a dominance of alloys, I should be able to extend that. I start with market manager here. I have dealer in a couple of locations. as long as I'm supplying those locations, I should be able to get that there. The market manager is the tough part, though, remember, because I may have to fight for that, either doing downgrading the management or continually dumping stuff. But then here's the interesting one. Victory option C. I mean, that one's pretty interesting. Like, it seems like I might be able to get those management, those market positions almost for free. Maybe I have to work a little bit in some cases, but for the most part, I can boost them up. Now, this one makes it hard. 1,000 in assets and the price of alloys 5 or less in every system. Okay. So, that's almost the flip side. If I want the market management one, I'm the guy who's going to control the flow of the alloys. If I do this other one, I'm going to ship as many alloys as I can, as fast and as hard as I can. It may give me market position. But I want to, whenever the prices are getting kind of high, I need to dump them. I need to dump more alloys into the system. I need to produce more constantly. I'm not sure that this is possible, but here's the thing. If there's ever a big market disparity, if this is kept, where it is, and it tends to stay there, and these guys with middling modifiers inch their way up to maybe 10, well, somebody's going to come in and sell if I don't do it, right? So that's actually a really tough call. It's almost like it and the market manager one are the same, but this one costs me a lot less. So I think I'm going to try for that one. It looks kind of neat. It's hard to justify. Why the hell does the guy who runs alloys want to drive the price down? What possible reason? And there's absolutely nothing in the description that gives you any reason why you would want to do that. Now, if it said 5 or higher, it would make sense, because then I would shut people out of here and keep that running there. But yeah, I think I'm going to go for that one. I think it may actually be easier than trying to get 3 market manager positions. Contractors, it's hard for people. People have to go out of their way to knock you out of contractor, but manager, that can just happen incidentally, getting knocked out of it. This may be the most important decision in the game, and yeah, I'm going to go over what my choices were and what I made, because I think it does flow the game across the board. So, Gamble of Horus, they had 3 choices. One which is $2,000. Another is $1,500 in market alloys in the different systems. And the other is the price of alloys. I went with the 1,000 and the price of alloys. I think I can manage that. But it's tricky and it's hard to tell what that's going to mean. But I have, I'm sitting on only $200 in some ships. But raising $1,000 is not hard. The hard part's going to be to dump the prices and to get stuff moving, which might mean building some ships and stuff. But remember, if I'm close to the 1,000, I can sell all my ships and make my way over. So as long as I can get the requirements, I should be able to push my way forward with that. Perhaps quicker than the $1,000 that the initial guy can make. All right, Houston Fearless. He had some interesting choices as well. And $2,500, ouch, that's a lot of money. Now, granted, I start with a lot, but not ridiculous. I start with $500 and some holdings. Option B, $2,000 in market manager or contract in isotopes in all markets. Okay, maybe. But the next one is only $1,500 in assets, reputation 35, market manager contract in any commodity other than isotopes in all systems where it's available. And that's the one I went with, primarily because spice can be something I can deal with in only 3 planets. And that should be an easier thing to get a grip on those manager contract positions. I don't have to maintain as many of them. So that seemed reasonable, even if some of the other facets, what the 35 reputation is going to cost me some money. Not a whole hell of a lot. I can get that on a couple die rolls, right? And then it makes back the money as it's coming back. So, all right, McRady. There really is no option here. The 1800 in assets is the only reasonable one. My regular corporation, no, Quasar. Okay, Quasar has a hard one. So Quasar, their first option is 2500. Now, again, that's a lot of money, but they do start with $1,000 in their pocket. And a couple of ships. Somebody starts with all the isotopes. I think Houston Fearless does. Okay. But Quasar also, second option, 2,000 in assets, 10 warehouses, and 4 factory units in each commodity. You know, once you start adding the price of factory units into this, that just starts to add up to $500 or things that I have to protect that are hard to get. So I actually went for the next one, but I probably would have gone for this one over the 2,500, even if those factory units might push me over. I don't know. Just because I really don't like pure cash. The C option is 2,000 in assets, market manager in all 4 commodities in one system. Well, I'm looking at Sigma Drac with 2 factory possibilities and some good prices for bringing other goods there so that I can haul spice out of there to other places where it's expensive and then bring the resources that I'm able to haul back. The only real problem with this is getting the market position in the alloys. I'm pretty much going to have to dedicate a run to grabbing alloys somewhere. And that's only one place really here. And hauling them in, unless I can, get some kind of arbitrage. And honestly, this is actually not a bad place to do that arbitrage. I can buy alloys there, but the problem is this is the place where I want to buy isotopes. So I'm going to take a bit of a bath on the alloys and have to do something painful for that, but that's okay. This guy only has one choice, $1,000. He's not. And Eon, interesting choices here. Well, his first choice is 2,000 in assets. His second is 1,200 in assets, criminal and political both 9. Wow, that's a significant amount of money. Oh wait, I'm already at 7 in both of those. So, 9 and 8 is 170 times 2, 340. It's still money, but we're talking about a difference of 800 credits here. Okay, and own at least 4 streamlined hulls. Okay, that's a bit more problematic, because that means I can't sell my spaceships all at the end to get my 1,200. But I kind of like not having to sell my spaceships. And I can sell the pods from them. So that looked more appealing to me. And in general, I don't go with the pure cash one. I think that almost with every corporation, you can look and you can discount one of them as not as good as others. Sometimes it's the pure cash, sometimes it's some of the resources in opposition to that. All right, I got to get me some tea, and then we'll actually start playing where people are going to write down their bids for the turn. Oh, yeah, this game uses up a decent amount of paper. Slow at getting anywhere in this game because I went out dancing last night. There's my toe. Yeah, there's always... I put a piece of paper on my heel now. A piece of toilet paper that I tape with medical tape. And that keeps blisters from happening there. I mean, I could put something on the toe, but I wasn't aware that the shoes I was wearing would do that. Anyway. Oh, what do we got? So this is the bidding for the first turn. And I'm beginning to realize some of the things I didn't like about this game, in particular having to do with the interception and attacking ships. It doesn't quite work. So, player C is McRady's crew. Other people have picked where they're going to go, intending to go, and put a bid in for what they want to buy. Now, there's a cost if they don't manage to get there. And I've kind of put the ships that I'm planning on hyper jumping here. I got to make certain that I've got it correct, maybe with a double check. So I see a lot of people claim they're going to Sigma Drac, but nobody's there. Player D and E are claiming that they're going to Sigma Drac. So I'm going to have to look these up to make sure that I've got these positioned right. You don't actually do this when you're not playing solo, but this helps me keep track of where I'm heading with my ships. And it's something that I'll get used to doing more. But with McGrady's crew, they're sitting out here. This is not a good place to be. So they're going to want to jump somewhere. But the somewhere they're going to want to jump becomes kind of problematic, because hyperjumping is done in turn order. If they put a bid in and choose to go last in turn order, well, unless people decide to hyperjump here while he's sitting in that box, they're not going to come to him, and he's not going to get any bonuses. People will, if they buy something that they can't buy, well, they'll throw, they'll buy one item of it, and they'll throw the rest of their bid out, because you don't have to bid a quantity here. You just bid a price, and then you're offered a certain quantity based on that. So it's not a big loss compared to, like, yeah, I'm going to lose my ship if I go in there, On the other hand, if he takes first in turn order and jumps someplace more attractive looking, and it turns out nobody's even going here because he's sitting there, nobody's got plans to go there. If he goes somewhere more attractive and somewhere safer, because there's a good chance he'll lose his ship if he's there, someplace like Mu Hercules, for example, where he's not going to get caught at all, or Gamma-Leporis, which is actually one of the most interesting of them all, that works fine, except that he goes there, he shows up, and everybody says, well, I'm not going there now. I think the game should have pre-plotted movement of ships, as well as pre-plotting the bids. And I may actually end up requiring that, because there's just no way to catch someone the way that it plays. And I remember this being the case. When you try to play a pirate, you just can't catch anyone. And there's no reason in particular that I should know that someone's merchant is in some other system. Actually, Universe is not Traveler. And there is, I think, a faster than jump speed communication and near instantaneous communication. So over any distance. Maybe I'm mistaken about that, but you would be able to maybe intercept information about where somebody's going or something. But unfortunately, that's just, there's really no chance of doing anything. The other alternative is, if I do keep going with the rules as written, I could do something like blockade Gamma-Leporis. And then the player who, Gamma-Lepko, or anyone else who's really, really interested in alloys, well, they're going to see two things. They're going to see that they're not going to be able to move their ships out, and they're going to start starving to death, and maybe they'll pay a bribe. Hey, go away. I'll give you 100 credits. Just leave me alone. Which might work, but otherwise, McCrady's crew uses up $12 a turn to exist. They have a decent amount to begin with, but they're going to be eating into that very, very quickly. And they don't have the opportunities that other corporations, or that the actual corporations do. So there's something really problematic about that. And I'm really kind of leaning towards pre-plotted jumps, because then you can at least catch somebody on an off chance, on a lucky shot. You'll want to go first in the turn order. But here's the thing. Then the bidding for turn order becomes less important. Because one possible thing that people can do is, instead of just, I'm going to put a bid in to sell my goods here, you can put bids in to sell them at multiple places and choose where to go. And I kind of don't want to disturb that either. So I don't know. That may actually be a negative as well, though. And certainly putting multiple bids in to buy works too. But then you do have to pay a cost if you win the bid. If you end up getting any possibility to buy commodities, you do have to buy one and just throw the money away. So I am going to go with pre-plotted movement, in which case everybody's actually placed on the board in the locations they're going to. Nobody actually bid on initiative, so everybody's just going to roll 2 dice for that. Is that what we go to next? Yeah. All right. And, you know, I'll just roll and try to order them. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of excess counters for the colors, so maybe I'll grab some dice or something to mark the play order. I'll come back after that's established. This is painful, though, because I have to keep track of initiative order and turn order, right? And that's particularly important because there's one person, McCready, who wants to have his turn order be first still. Because if he's going first, he still gets to get into the new system before someone else does, and he wants to randomize where he's going. Alternatively, if he's going last, he's still in system space, and unfortunately my marking here hides that issue. In general, it's not a big deal, though, where somebody was when they go into hyperjump. I resolved something similar to this in when I play Empires in of the Middle Ages, where I put a tiny little die next to each guy to indicate what his player turn order is. That's not going to work here because I have to keep 2 things, initiative and player order. Okay, fair enough. So what I'm using is colored dice here, and I've recorded the die rolls that they've gotten on 2d6. Again, nobody bid. And so our first choice in terms of initiative is this guy. Second, third, we had a tie here, but there was a roll-off. Fourth, fifth, and then sixth. And now we get to choose our player order. Now C is McCready, and he wants his player order, his player turn order, as well as his initiative to be first. Everybody else is going to basically reverse their player turn order. Because I believe player turn order is generally not good for you if you're trading. The only time you want it is maybe if you're pirating. Okay. So that's what we've got there. And now we go to the news phase. And we roll a d6, divided by 2, rounded down. So we're going to get 2 news checks. And the first one, we don't look at it, is a political 5 in 1 turn. And the second one is a business 10 in 2 turns. Okay, business 10, I'm probably not, I don't think anybody's up there. But political 5, some people may be interested in purchasing that piece of information if they have it. Quasar has that information, as does... okay, so everything on this side has that information, if they want to pay for it. Which is a choice. They have to pay 5 hectotrans each to do so. I think it's worthwhile for each of them. So we're going to go to this guy who drops down to 995. This guy's not wealthy at all. And we get to look this one up. And this one is Any Pod, Opportunity 26. So he can go to Epsilon Eridani and buy up to 1 pod of each type. Whoever gets there first, and again that's going to be an initiative order thing, gets to grab that pod. Unfortunately, everybody knows whether or not they're going to Epsilon Eridani, and they're probably not going to be landing on planet. This is really... So this is a point where you might change your hyper jump plot, right? Because in the regular game, you would have the opportunity to, okay, that's a better opportunity than what I'm planning on doing. So this is something people would have to think about. Personally, I don't think buying a pod, a military pod, which is really what this is about, is terribly worthwhile to any of those corporations. So I think everybody's going to kind of pass on that one. So now obviously if I had actual hyper jumps going on, actually had plotted movement for my hyper jumps going on, that would be on a separate sheet and I'd be looking those up. But instead I've got them recorded here. But I do still have to look on the sheets for the spaceship. So now the first company that's jumping is C, McRady's crew, and that's up here. Now he has a base of 5 to get here. Note that these are not symmetrical. That's not quite the right term, but so I've got a base of 5. What class crew do I have? I have a B, which puts me up to an 8. Okay, and I have an augmented jump pod, I think, on this. No, apparently I don't. So I guess I'm going in at an 8. Which means I need an 8 or less. And I get that. So I go in and I'm going to land in the system space so I can intercept anybody who's coming into there. And that's me. Now I go to Flare D, who I have the Tsar and the Needle. And again, it might work better written anyway. Okay, the Needle is making a jump to Sigma Drac. And that's got an A crew. So I've got 4, 9, and it has no pods. I go in. I'm not trying to get on planet. I don't want to deal with illegal goods or anything. So we'll just put it down there. Okay. That appears to be his jumps. Pink is orange. So that's E. He's got the Pluto, which is staying in place. Red is F. He's got the Hawk and the Knight. The Knight is flying here. I don't know. The Hawk looks like it's staying there. So the Knight has a base of 6 with an A crew, which puts it up to an 11, and an AUG jump, which puts it to a 13. That's an automatic jump. Now, in system space, I can be intercepted. So this has an interception rating of 2. McRady's crew has only an interception of 1. So I have a +1 to avoid. I believe I only roll 1 die for interception. My battle common class A. Oh shit, I forgot to write those in there. Alright, I'm going to have to rework all my numbers based on crew level and the battle comm pods, so I'll be back in a bit. So the actuality is that Dagger has an interception of 4. I did this for all the ships, that's why. And McRady's has a 2. This is an unfortunate thing. This chart does not mark that the battle comm gives you an interception bonus, and it doesn't indicate the crew value to interception. Calculating those values, anyway. So the Dagger has +2 here. He gets a 5. McRady does not catch him, which means the Dagger gets to continue on to his destination, which is on planet. And here, he's going through a security rating of 6, but he's smuggling, which... Oh, there we go. Okay, so I rolled 2 dice. I add 3 if I have a Battlecom pod, which I do, and 2 if it's streamlined, which it is. So I'm at +5. And here I have to roll higher than the security rating. Crew doesn't seem to matter. This is automatic. The security rating is only 6, so I drop down and I'm on planet undetected. That means during my opportunities phase, I'm going to be able to sell those 5 units of Tempest, which is pretty cool. All right, so that was Eon, and I'll continue with the rest of the jumps. I guess I can do it in live. Blue is A, who's got the Saturn Nebula, and I'm not going to do this again at this level. They're not jumping, they're picking up materials, I guess. I wish you got a possible interception both directions. That would also fix things. I don't believe it's the case. You only get intercepted when you're jumping into a system. So it would make sense that you can maybe avoid this if you can detect it, so you wouldn't go out into system space. But using kind of the Traveler analog here, I'm looking at, quite often ships would sail out to the jump point and they'd get pirated there, and I kind of think Universe had the same kind of concept in it. So it wasn't just when you jumped into a system, it's when you are jumping out of a system that you'd be vulnerable to. I think that would be an alternative fix, actually, because then you could kind of blockade. You could find out where people are going and go there. And you'd know but they couldn't leave, and that's all that would be happening. People probably aren't going to chance, depends on what they're looking at. The chance of slipping by this isn't bad, but you're looking at losing a spaceship, a big hunk of your total value. And unless it's like a situation where it's a 2 or 3 player game, maybe, I don't see somebody being able to like freeze another player on a planet being that valuable an opportunity. And if you're McCready's crew, the only way you make money is by stealing from people, for the most part. Anyway, that leaves us, I've got like 3 ships here. I hope that B, it's indeed Houston Fearless. Alpha Coral Sphinx. Let's make sure we've caught them all. Oh, that's only 1 ship there. Okay, but who had the Tsar? They should have gone already. And this is the pain in the ass of doing this. The Tsar was a Quasar. That's D. D is yellow. They should have gone very early. We'll give them a shot because they're going into here. Who else went in there? The Knight. Okay. Okay, so the Tsar should have been going into there. It has an A crew, which gives it 5, 10, Aug jump 12. It's automatically in. Let's see if this gets intercepted. Because the other ship didn't get intercepted, it's no big deal. So now we're looking at McRady has an interception of 2. The Quasar ship has an interception of 2. So we'll do Quasar first. McRady catches it. All right. Who has the initiative? McRady does. He has first shot. He's going to take it. He would like to capture something, but there's nothing he can capture here. So what he immediately does is may say to Quasar, hey, you're sailing in here with the Tsar. That's a Monarch with a bunch of pods on it. Well, that thing's worth quite a bit. Transfer 100 credits to me. It's worth 150 base off there, and it's got it does have 4 light weapons pods. Transfer 100 to me and I'll let you go by. Well, 100 sounds like a lot of money, although the 4 light weapons pods you know, is worth another 80. So we're talking about maybe half the value of the ship. He says no deal. Does he come back with a counter offer? Yeah, he does. He says, how about 50? We'll see if McRady is willing. McRady's willing to take 50 credits from D for this. And this is very much like Lords of the Sierra Madre. Hey, I'm going to do something terrible to you. And now we let the Tsar go. And I believe we have to. Because, you know, the transfer is happening at that moment. Either way, we don't want to get known. We're probably going to be cutting a lot of deals of this nature. We don't want to be known as the guy who doesn't hold to his deals as a pirate. It's especially important here, you know, if we shoot this ship, we don't get to capture a prize or anything like that, which I find kind of disturbing. I wish there was a possibility for prizing the ship. But all we get is the satisfaction of destroying somebody else's property. And if instead we can get some cash from them, hey, that's great. $50 is actually a pretty decent amount of money. So yeah. Probably have stuff here I shouldn't be like flashing around on the video. Yeah. Okay. So we have one more here, which is the coral is making a jump, and that should be green B. Yeah, it doesn't matter because I've, you know, already. So the coral's got a B crew, which means 6, 7, 8, 9. No Augie jump, and we make it. And there's nobody in our way there. And so that we've made our landings where we're going to. And now we're going to go to the transactions. And this is where all the trade is going on. Let me take a little break because my throat's hurting a little. Okay, so now the player with the highest initiative gets to choose which of all the commodities anywhere he wants to trigger off first. Now this is important because if people are low on cash, you could trigger things that people want to buy before you trigger things they may want to sell. And so he's putting a general offer out of, hey, $5, and you know, you control what I have unless somebody outbids you. Because he won that, and he's totally mercenary and totally uninterested in any of the commodities here. He might have a vague interest in spoiling everyone's plans, but, you know, everybody looks like they have enough cash to do something. Otherwise, well, he'll just do it in order. So the first one is here at Gamelab. And this is also a problem because you have to kind of keep track of which ones you fired off and which ones you didn't. I can do that by flipping these counters over if that's an issue. But since I'm going to just go through them sequentially, I don't think it is. So, is anybody got bids in at Gamelab Horus? And I look through here. D has a bid to buy alloys at 2. And A has the market manager position there. All right, well, market manager is interesting. I can make my own choice. Do I want to buy alloys here? A out initiatives B, so he would get the first choice. So he'll put in a bid at buy at 2 as well. So I'll just mark that down. I'm not sure it's a terribly good bid, but hey, I got the factories and everything, but they're only going to produce 5. My ships, which are both there, I think, Satyr and the Nebula, have a capacity to carry some 16 cargo. I'm not going to produce that much, so I want to buy as much as I can. I probably should have sent one of the ships somewhere else. All right, so since I have the higher initiative as A, I get to actually do my purchase first. We roll 2 dice, and this is how these all are going to work. The roll is 7. That puts it to the 8 box. We go to +8. Okay. Since I bid at 2, which is the current value, I could buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them at that price. That would deny anyone else any of them. What did I say I have for cargo? I have 16 cargo. I'm going to be producing 5. 5 and 9 is 14. I'm going to buy the whole 9 that are within my bidding capacity. So, here's where we need the calculators, right? Well, I owe 18. Okay, we get too used to calculators. 8, make it 20. And I have myself now 9 of these alloys kicking around. Now, and I can put them here. They can go on board the ship too, but we'll dispatch them as we need to. So now the other player who had a bid here was I'm sorry, where are we? Gamble of Horus, D. Well, he's not going to get to buy any of his. Now, because I'm a market manager, I have an additional capacity, which is I believe I can use my contractor ability. So I could buy or sell up to 5 units. Well, I'm going to buy 5 more, I think. What do we have here? We have 9, 14. I can only carry 16. I'm going to just buy 2 more. So that's $4 more. And I get some more here. So now I have 11 there. And that's the first purchasing. Let's go down here because this guy has something he's trying to sell, I think. So we look at Epsilon Eridani, and one person's trying to do things. Well, the Dick sees that he has isotopes on board and says, well, all right, well, we're going to do alloys first. Okay, fair enough. Nobody's got any orders on alloys here. So we get 8 minus 7 puts it to the +1 box. The price stays the same. Let's go to the isotopes because he doesn't have bids in on either of these. If this was an opposed game, I wouldn't know that, and I'd probably consider triggering those first. If I know what he's got on board, I may not know it. Okay, so here he has a bid to sell them at 8. Oh wait, he has a bid to buy, he has a bid to buy alloys at 4. Let's get back to that. So we're on the +1 box. 4 is 1 less, which would be in this direction. It's the wrong direction. I'm not going to get to buy any. I would have needed a good roll to get any. This isn't a terribly great place to buy alloys. You can look, see the prices are like 8, 6. I'm not going to make a lot of money there. So that buy alloys is canceled out. Now the sell isotopes. Let's do this. Although he does have other places he's going, we're not going to worry to that degree at this point. Let's make sure which company this is, because if he's low on money, we might worry. This is company B. He's got like $500. I want to show you a sale, because it's the only place we're going to see that. So -7, and we may go into more detail when there's a really complex number of people bidding in the same commodity, which doesn't happen very often. 10 minus 7 puts me on the +3 box. Okay. So I'm trying to sell these at 8. 8 is 2 less than the current price. Since we rolled high, the price is already getting depressed. So 1, 2, 3, I could sell 4 of them. Now, I may not want to sell 4 because that's not going to give me a chance at a market position, but I kind of want to ditch some of my crap, don't I? Because the price is decreasing anyway. Yeah, I'll sell my 4. I don't like hauling goods around for a long time. I'll sell my 4 goods there, and I was selling at 8. I had to sell at least 1. So now I get $32 over on B. And it's important for me then to take into account this and actually drop the price. The next one is the spice. Nobody's dealing in that. So all we do is roll, and I think that's a -8 on there. 5 minus 8 is -3, which says the price of spice goes up by 1, and then I continue on with the monopoles, etc. I'll come back if there's something else interesting happening in the trading period, but I don't think there will be. So actually, we got 2 people with bids on monopoles over here at Moo Hercules. I've done the alloys already. I'm going to force a purchase order on the monopoles. So this guy's going at 13. They're both going at 13. That's a shame. See, the reason the prices end up the same is my means of calculating what I want to do. So I have a certain amount I want on my ship, but maybe more importantly, I want to get 6 to get a market position chance or whatever. So I put a bid in that looks like it's going to get me into that range and give me a fair guarantee of getting a market position gain. And those bids tend to be pretty fixed. We'll see if people get more competitive as time goes on and start trying to undercut each other's bids. So here we have F and B. B is dark green, they're not first. So F is going to have first shot at this. And monopoles has a base value of -4 on there. Or modifier of -4. 6, that means +2. So the price is going down a little bit. Now, the bids of 13 are 1 higher than the current price. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 can be bought. I think I want them anyway, even though I'm not going to get the market position chance off of it. But, you know, because otherwise my ship and my crew are costing me money for no good reason. Speaking of which, I have to remember to pay the crews. That's something that happens each turn, and I don't know when that should happen. Probably at the end of the turn, but I don't recall. Okay, so we'll just we'll take care of that. So he bought 5 at 13. And this is player F. That's going to be $65 he owes. Try to cross that out. Now monopoles are cool because they don't take up any space, so I don't have to make any worries about what I can carry or whatnot. He has, looks like either the Hawk or the Knight. The Hawk. Alright, and what did I say, how much? 65 off of F. Okay. That means there's no play in the market and the price goes up. And now we go to his sales of the isotopes, which don't really matter. I've shown you that enough, I think. I was able to sell all 8 isotopes at my price of 9, and that actually drops the isotopes down. And what that does is, since I moved 6 or more, I get to roll 2 dice. On an 8 or less, I get an increase in my market position. And I do. So I'm now a market manager. That gives me something. I get 1 business and 2 reputational. And this is for player B. His business is already as high as it can be. So I don't think I get the reputation because the reputation comes from the business connection. But this is one reason why, if you're dealing in commodities in any quantity in the game, market positions are going to drive your business connections way up. So in a sense, a starting player might not want any business connections. I gave this guy some, but often it's better to throw your points into the political or criminal rather than the business. All right, now you're beginning to see, though, because the bids are valued at a certain point, and you don't know your initiative place until after you've written your bids down. Well, it might be worth bidding on initiative here. If I'm buying 8 units at an additional buck, right? Or selling 8 units for an additional buck, I'm going to get a little bit, I'm going to get like an $8 difference there. Whereas bidding for initiative, what is it? It's $5 per bid, I think. $5 per +1. Or is it just $1 per? Yeah, it's just $1 for each +1. So, it might be well worth throwing $5 into the initiative roll for a chance to get that advantage. On the other hand, if initiative bids start going up and people start saying, well, it's worth $5 to me, well, maybe it's not worth $5 to you anymore. You can just take your bath, and count on having to pay a little bit, having to put a slightly worse bid in, which will guarantee you, if you've got the worst bid, the first shot at something, right? Because if you're bidding too much for something or too little on a sale, you get the first opportunity regardless of the initiative. But sometimes the initiative is a worthwhile bid there. Anyway, onward through the rest. Got different prices here at Sigma Drac, so things might be interesting. So they're going to run the isotopes first. And we've got only one guy who's trying to buy isotopes, E. E is, God, I wish I had this all on one sheet of paper, but is my little thing. That's the Pluto, which can hold, it can only carry 6. SD -1, 8, 7. Okay. Now my bid on isotopes is at 4, which is the current value. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8. I can buy 8. So here's my problem. I've got a good bid on spice too. If I buy all those isotopes, spice doesn't take up space. Okay. So I can't buy all the isotopes, but I can buy 6 of them. And I'm bidding 4, so for $24, and this is actually interesting because it's the first time we've seen this not do what somebody buy less than the full amount that they could. So I just grabbed 6. Who's my ship? My ship is the Pluto. Okay, and I have as much room as I need for spice. So this goes 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It hits the 0, so the base price is 4 anyway. If I had only bought 5 of them, the base price would decrease a little bit, which would be cool. So that's my isotope purchase. Unless I did these already. Okay. Now we have a well, let me just do the price on the alloys just to keep going in order. Nobody's got anything. 3 minus 5 minus 2, the price goes up by 1. Okay. Over here to the spice. The base is minus 3. There's 2 people involved in this bidding now, so we'll see what they can do. Base of minus 3, I get 3. Okay, so the price is naturally going down. Now, the guy with the highest price, D, is trying to buy it at 12. Well, 12 is up at plus 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He could buy up to 8 of them at 12. Oh, I gotta check the... He bought 8 isotopes. he gets a market position. This is important. This was in Isotopes. He's now a dealer. His business connection goes up by 1. And his reputation, which unfortunately I still have not put those on the board. Okay, so what do we have here? E's a starting corporation. I forgot about what they start with a reputation of 20. And he just got 2 points of reputation for that business connection. F is Eon, who does not have a lot of reputation. But that's kind of cool because it goes up. So. All right. So where were we? I don't remember if we rolled. Looks like we did. So the base price is -1. So Eon, no, somebody is buying Spice at D. D is buying Spice at 12. This is Quasar. Quasar's got what ship? He's got the Tsar and the Needle. He's got this Needle here. The Needle has no cargo because it's just a Piccolo. So Spice is the only thing he could buy. He's going to buy as much of it as he can. He's not really limited by money. He has like $900. And you know, he's making on the margin here, but also trying to get that market position, which is, I believe, his attempt at victory condition. But he wants all 4 in one system, and he's kind of aiming at maybe this system. So I don't know. All right. So he's going at 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at 12. That sounds like $96. No, 106 maybe. 96. $96. Okay, and he just picked up 8 Spice. Now this means the other guy's not going to get any because he bid less than that. He bid only 10. We got a market positioning possibility here for Quasar. And he gets that as well. Now Quasar, again, has the 10 business, so he's not going to get any real advantage off of that. Becoming a dealer there. He's a Spice dealer. Okay. So that means we'd look at the next one, which is the buy Spice at 10, and the price is too high already, so he can't do that. He's denied that. It is possible that, depending on some really odd bids, that people could end up in a position where there was a third person who was maybe selling Spice there, who would have driven the price down enough but didn't get an opportunity to go. But the bids couldn't be what they were, where people are bidding above the price point for that kind of thing to happen. So, because this shifted over, so now the seller would get the next option to go, but there is no seller. And now, yeah, we got the monopoles. -3 goes up 1 and onward. I noticed one thing that slipped my mind that may have had some effect. Player F has a warehouse in a couple of places. Now, I didn't realize it, so I'm not putting bids in. You know, I'm not going to try to fix this. But he's got the capacity to put bids in safely at Mu Hercules and Gamma Leporis because he's got some place he can dump stuff. So if prices started to look like they got low, and he might have put it at 1 here, but probably not much more than that. In the sequence of play, we're in the opportunity phase. Now this is done, we have to look at the initiative here. This is done in player order, which is kind of interesting because some of these are things that there's a certain level of, you might want to go first again. Player order is not always terrible. So let's take a look. Well, McCrady's the first, and he's not got any of these that he really wants to do. He's a problem because one of these things is embarked passengers. Now, I don't know if anybody, I think somebody has a passenger. Yeah, there's a passenger pod over here on the Houston Fearless. I probably want to get rid of that because as soon as I have a passenger pod, I'm declaring where I'm going, and you've got that tracked essentially. You may have it tracked anyway if I have materials on board. So for example, if I have spice and monopoles, I'm going to want to go to one of the big market locations. But there are multiple places where I can sell goods at good prices. On the other hand, if I have something like alloys on board, I can sell them in a lot of different places. They're going to be fair prices in a lot of places. Same thing with isotopes. But the spice and monopoles have a more limited number of places. But once I pick a passenger location, I've got to try to get there. And that's kind of an invitation for McCready to say, yeah. Okay. So if we pull him out of the way, the next one's yellow, which is Quasar D. No. There's one person who's got an interest in the sabotage element in the game at this stage, which is the guy with Dwarf, because Dwarf is really good at that. So he's probably the only person I'm going to consider that as an option. But some of the other options are pleasing, like increasing, let's see, what rep levels in investment. Obviously, anybody with factories is going to produce those. Right now, we only have one person with that. I can just pump those out. That's 5 additional here because that's not going to have any effect. And the factory's only able to hold 10 or 20. Jesus. I think it costs 20 hectos and can only hold 10. So now I have to look up A's ships. It would be nice if each player had sort of their own set of pieces, like some color-coded ships, etc. This could really have been made. It was made for a magazine, so there was a real limit on the countermix. And that limit's telling in that there aren't enough market positions for some of the players and stuff like that. So I want to get on the Satyr or the Nebula. And the Satyr can carry, I think I had it set up so that they're both there and they can carry. Satyr only has 4 cargo. The Nebula is the one with 12. So we'll put those there and grab this material. And we can get out safely. There's no blockading people into place, as I mentioned before. But what about the other stuff here? Undermining market positions. All of this is kind of the stuff that you can do that's dicky to other players. You probably don't want to do at this stage because you might end up starting what amounts to an open war of skullduggery. And I think that's probably a bad idea until a leader starts really emerging. And obviously that's not happening. McCready is the obvious other case for this. So now let's see who Eon is red. So I think they're the next one who have something that really wants to be done. And they want to sell their illegal goods. They have 5 units of Tempest. And we have to sell it once we roll the dice. There's no modifiers or anything. And we get a lot of money. We get $250. This is, Jesus, I can't remember the company anymore. It's the Knight 03. Yeah, it's Eon. Okay. So he gets 1, 2, 50. And that's a big chunk of change, but he started out without much money because of that. Okay. So what do we have Otherwise, somebody has those passengers. I would like to sell my pod, which is going to be over here in the investment phases again, because I don't want to try to haul passengers. It's just, I'm too big of a target if I'm doing that. And I don't really have to. Although it is sort of my little advantage. Okay, the next one that wanted to do something is a possible sabotage here. Now I got to think about, and here's again where I have to look to see who I've got here. So the Tsar is the only person here, and the factory. Tsar is owned by someone. It's owned by Quasar. He doesn't have any materials on board, but I'd really like to, I'm sorry, the warehouse. I'd really like to sabotage his ship and kind of make it clear that, hey, you don't want to be on my planet, man. So let's look up Worf. And he's going to add 4 to any sabotage by the controlling player. All right. And we'll look up the sabotage rules, which of course I've forgotten because I almost never do this shit. 20 times the system's law level. So I've got a fairly high law level here. I'll spend 60 to try to chase people away, and we'll see how well that works. Not a lot of money left. But my monopoly in Gamma Leporis is kind of important to me. Although actually I may want to let people get deal in alloys because it'll help drive the price down. Okay. So first roll is on the target. And let's see. My criminal connections. Oh yeah, there it is. Subtract the number of production units in a factory. So it does have a modifier there. So Gamma Leporis has no criminal connections, but I do have this +4 for Dwarf. So I get an 8-12. I do a hit on that ship. This was the Tsar. This is here on Quasar. Now I have to mark that somehow. That's going to be, I don't know if that's a hit on a pod or something else. Doesn't really make much difference. Because, well, I can't repair it if it's a pod. So I'm going to take that on the core of the ship. Because that's easier. Now let's see if anything happens to my reputation here. So 610. I take 12-point reputation hit. Ouch. Well, I probably don't want to do that very much anymore until my reputation, recovers, because I don't want to get down into the inquiry zone. And that's the risk of doing bad stuff. I didn't do much damage. Okay. I don't think anyone else has anything they want to do. B is Houston Fearless. Yeah. So that brings us down to the investment phase. Investment phase claims it can be done in any order. I'm not sure how much I really believe that, because there's some facets that might affect another player. So for example, if I'm building a ship somewhere or a warehouse somewhere, I'm kind of telegraphing something about what I'm doing. So unless it's plotted, you could end up in a weird timing sort of situation like you have in Pax Britannica, where, everybody's sitting there saying, hey, well, I'm not sure I want to do anything until I see if anybody else is. Those can be problematic. But anyway, I'm going to just do it flipping through these. Gamma Leporis didn't have anything exciting to do there. Houston Fearless does, though. I'm paying the crew at this stage, which may actually be in here. Since you pay your interest at this point, it seems like the same kind of thing. So Houston paid its crew, but now I have to sell off my passenger pod. And I'm at Tossetti, which unfortunately may not be the best place to do it, but I just want to get rid of it unless I have... Hey, I have a warehouse. I could actually store it there. But I roll 3 dice, subtract the spaceport class. I think I'll do it. Even though it's got a high port class, I don't think it's terribly worth it. And that gets me my percentage. So 5, 6, 7 minus 3. I get only 40% of the value of the passenger pod. But it's not a lot of money. So it's 15. So I get $6 for that passenger pod, which is fine, you know. Now what that does is that actually reduces my crew down to 1. So I'm only paying 2 per turn for this, and I'm owed some money because I have these 1 crews at 4 per turn. So I'm owed $4 back as well. Okay. Now, I can buy another pod. I think I'm going to buy another cargo pod. That's going to cost me $4. And we'll get that up to 4. And this up to 8. It's somewhat dangerous because I have no weaponry on my ships, but these guys really can't carry much, and I gotta hope for the best. And that'll let me carry more crap around. There's nothing that helps me with the interception except the damn Battlecom pod, which could be a desirable choice. Another option would be to sell off my ship and try to go for something stealthier, in the hopes of getting around McCready. But this is not the port I want to sell my ship at, and we'll see. It is possible, by the way, although you end up with some turn delays, you could take commodities, haul them to someplace like this that's a decent market but has a low port class, and then sell your ship, putting in orders for new ones ahead of time, whatever it takes to stagger. So you could be constantly rotating your ships around. I hate the idea of doing that, but that might actually be a reasonable strategy here. What about other things I might want to do? Reputation level. So one of my goals is to get my reputation up, and by the way, I made $10. I think it's worth investing in. So let's look at the cost of that. And we'll just do this one player because he looks like he has a fair amount of things he wants to do. So if I want to increase it, cost me 20 for a die roll. And you can see when I'm up here, I'll make that back pretty quickly as long as I don't roll a 6. So right now I'm making 10 a turn. Oh, see, if I had rolled up into here, I'd be making 20 a turn, so I'd be making it back. But I lost the money there. Might want to increase a connection level. There's nothing out here yet. I'm going to pay $40 for a political level. Now, political comes with a point of reputation, I think. So I get the advantage off that. Otherwise, I think I'm okay. And that'll be Houston Fearless's actions. I may go back and consider Gamma Porus, which I didn't really do anything with. There's also the possibility to buy warehouses. If you have places where you want to start stockpiling stuff, buy factories. All of this is available. The problem is, so like buying factories, you kind of want to do that when the price bottoms out, if that happens. Now, is the price bottomed out? Well, by replacing the two tokens that I think were mistaken, the isotopes here with the isotopes here, there's no longer a magical, there was a magical factory here, that you could build a factory, it produces isotopes, and the price is just going to inflate all the time. And I think it's a flaw in the game, which is why I swapped those two items. I'll come back if somebody buys a factory or something. Warehouses just cost 20 hectos or whatever. So basically there's a position where, you know, people who have fairly high reputations, and that included this guy who was up already at 22, boost their reputation up a little bit to start getting that income flow higher and higher. On the other hand, people who are on the low end were buying criminal connections because this is when it doesn't hurt unless it slips you into the inquiry stage. And as a matter of fact, we have no one who's going to be inquirying. Oh, this is when the cash was supposed to come in. So people actually get some extra cash here. I'm not going to worry about it for this turn. I really don't like the idea that you can immediately spend and get some of that money back, I guess. I'm not sure. Well, we'll give it to him. So E got 15 bucks additional because they weren't getting anything. And D, I think, this is where they started. They're Quasar, I think. They were at reputation 30, so they get an extra 5 bucks. Just because I did the inquiry wrong. But the biggie is, these guys each go up 3 reputation. Him? No, there's 0 doesn't let you go up, I guess. He's going to have to expend to stick his reputation up if he wants it. Since his victory conditions don't require that, he's probably not going to do it because he's restricted from doing all kind of things that give you a bonus at a high reputation. That's going to push us over to the second turn, I guess. If there were any failed jumps, they would get reversed, they would get flipped over and brought back into play, but there aren't. Forgot to check this thing. Does it have a chance of being intercepted? I think I decided it doesn't, but let's make sure, because that might have happened out there. Jesus. Alright, I gotta find that. It's called sweeps. You know, I really, I've gotten so used to there being indices in rule books that the old magazine games especially have become more and more painful for me to play. Okay. So if you're in the system sweep, you roll 2 dice. If the result is equal to or less than the patrol value, the ship must immediately be placed in the spaceport or try to get on planet. The Battlecom adds 2 to the die roll. So I have a slight chance of being caught here on a 2. So that 1. Alright, so yeah, we're ready. And that's 1 turn of play. You can see it took a while to explain it all. I'm going to try not to do this level of detail because the game's unplayable and unfun while I'm videoing it to this degree. But I wanted to give you some, idea of some of the mechanisms in play. And then I'll try to find a way to capture the narrative in the videos, I don't know if that's really possible. I mean, oh look, somebody went somewhere and bid on something and people are richer now. I'm just afraid it's going to have that same kind of, the Euro kind of flavor to it, of not really being able to show you on a map and talk about what's going on in a particularly good way. And because I have to step away from the game so often to play anything, it's hard to keep, a clear vision of what's going on without some physical aid that shows me what's going on, like a map, for example. There's a map here, but with all the ships being not, colored in any useful fashion, it's really difficult to indicate who owns what and what's kind of going on. I'm thinking about maybe making some counters, or using, if I had like lots of little tiddlywinks, bingo chips, whatever, then I could like put them under, based on the color of the player, I could have them under the ships, and that would help a little bit, I guess, although it would congest the board too.